Joining us now to talk about this, and we appreciate his patience, former United States Ambassador to Venezuela, Otto Reich. Otto, we thank you for joining us here via Skype. What is your take on what is happening here? We understand that now our government is going to send millions of dollars to these Central American nations, apparently to say, keep your people at home. Do you think that's going to work?
That by itself is not going to work because we have already sent hundreds of millions of dollars to these countries in the past in all kinds of aid programs, some of which I managed back in the 80s. And that's not enough to keep people home when they can actually come to a much better economic environment, which is the United States.
So, Ambassador, what is the answer? And we see here on the screen, the graphic, an additional $100 million in aid to Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, and setting aside almost $162 million for the Central America Regional Security Initiative. What about border security in the United States, Ambassador? Is that something at long last we need here?
Well, look, a migration crisis, which is what we're facing right now in our southern border, with tens of thousands of children, unaccompanied children, in some cases children with their mothers, coming all at the same time, is not a coincidence, and is due to two factors. Any migration crisis is due to two things, what they call push factors and pull factors. The push factors are mainly poverty, the lack of economic opportunity, and insecurity in the countries. That has been there for centuries. The pull factor is the fact that the United States has basically, unfortunately, this president, perhaps unbeknownst to him, has declared an open border. Because when he said that the people who were here before a certain date would be allowed to stay, what the people in Central America heard, if you get to the United States now, in 4 or 5 years or in 10 years, the next president is going to say the people who got here before that date or after that date are going to also be able to stay. So this was caused, frankly, by the lack of understanding on the part of this administration of what causes people to leave their homes and come to the United States.
Otto, we only have about a minute left, but as we're taking a look at these Central American nations, and we heard that Mexico has stringent border security on its southern border, how are all the Central American minors getting to our southern border with Mexico?
There is one factor that is very seldom talked about, but anybody like myself or my colleagues who have worked in the region know has an enormous impact in this. It's corruption. Most of the institutions, from the local police forces to the governors to even to some of the federal governments in the region.
So in other words, Otto, time is short and my apologies. The fix is in corruption, a little something to grease the wheels, and right. that portends the involvement of the cartels and other nefarious enterprises. Ambassador Otto Reich, as always, we appreciate your insights. Look forward to having you back with us in the not too distant future. And we're interested in your comments, your take on what's happening on our border and on the Iraqi borders as well. Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #AmericasForum.